Hello everyone, Mike Stuchiner, Master Herbalist here, and as always, I'm here with my two co-hosts, B.O.N.E. Bones, aka The Boner, and Bernie on the Bench, my angel in disguise. So, today's video is about what I consider to be in our society today one of the more forgotten about, amazing, wonderful, awesome plant medicines. Is we're going to talk today about ginseng. I also think that ginseng is an incredibly misunderstood herb because most people don't really know the differences between the ginsengs, and more importantly, most people also don't know the appropriate way of using ginseng. So I think that I'm going to try to bring this together and simplify it for people a little bit, okay? But before we get started talking about ginseng, I have to go off on a little bit of a rant, if you want to call it that, where we talk about, I think part of the problem is that people who are out there marketing ginseng are, in my opinion, can be very misleading about the information that they're providing to people. And I'd like to give some examples of this before I actually start talking about ginseng. So for one thing, how many of you have heard the expression or people talk about how the herb maca is the Peruvian ginseng, or ashwagandha is the Indian ginseng, to make those associations? When maca and ashwagandha are not ginseng. They're not related to ginseng. They're all adaptogens, I'll grant you, but they're not really, quote unquote, actual ginsengs. So here is where I'm going to slightly go off the road when we talk, before I again specifically discuss ginseng. I'm going to use ashwagandha as a really good example of how I think people are sort of being misled. I see on YouTube advertisements and videos of people who are selling ashwagandha products, and one of their big claims to fame is how it raises T levels. We all know what that means. It means testosterone. Okay, I'm not really sure why people say T levels like they're 5-year-olds or something like that, but nonetheless, I don't really care. That's neither here nor there. Okay, and I think that there's this great misconception that when men especially hear, oh, this herb raises testosterone levels, they get certain thoughts in their head, okay? So first of all, this was based off of several studies done with a very well-known trademark raw material called KSM 66, which is a full spectrum extract powder of ashwagandha. It's an excellent product, by the way, and I've had conversations with the actual company itself who produced this raw material. It's a great product. And when we look at one raw material that's been studied extremely well and been used in so many human clinical trials, for ashwagandha specifically, KSM 66 is like the pinnacle when it comes to that aspect, okay? So this is in no way, shape, or form a knock on KSM 66. This is more of a knock on people who take these, what I call, misleading and ruthless marketing aspects. And the reason why I believe people have this great misunderstanding of herbs. This is just yet another reason why people misunderstand herbs, okay? So let's talk about this when we're dealing with ashwagandha and raising testosterone levels. So does it raise testosterone levels? That can be a bit misleading. The answer to that is yes and no, and here's why, okay? When people think of raising testosterone levels, what most people think of is they think of a fairly healthy person who has a fairly healthy testosterone level which is around between 6 to 700 for total testosterone, okay? Here's where the problem with this is, okay? People are under the impression that if they took ashwagandha and they were in that situation, that will take their 600 or 700 total testosterone and bring it to like 800, 900, or 1,000. That's not the case at all, okay? Those studies, we're talking about people who were aged, stressed out, and had testosterone levels way below optimal levels, okay? Now, what these studies did show is that by taking ashwagandha, their testosterone levels were in fact brought back up to healthy optimal levels. But it was because of what ashwagandha does in the body that affected those testosterone levels to go up. In other words, it wasn't they took it and tests went back up. It was that they took ashwagandha at a certain dosage for a specific period of time. And by doing it and being very consistent with it, what it actually did was that it optimized the function of the body, all functions of the body. It optimized adrenal health, thyroid health. It helped to lower cortisol levels. And by doing those things, by getting all those barriers out of the way of optimizing all of these different levels in the body, those people's testosterone level as a secondary effect went back up to normal optimal levels. Again, be clear, it didn't take someone from a 200 to 1,000. It took someone from subpar and low testosterone levels back up to normal, healthy, functioning testosterone levels. Okay? So I just want you to understand the very fine line between raising testosterone levels and optimizing testosterone levels. There is a big, big difference. Some would say that there's a fine line, but guess what? The line does in fact exist. Okay? I hope that might clear some things up for the next time maybe you're watching some YouTube channel or you see an advertisement for a product for ashwagandha and you understand that this amazing plant medicine, this amazing herb does wonderful things, but don't misguide yourself into thinking what so many people think because someone who's an expert in marketing and not herbal medicine tells you something. Okay? So, on to ginseng. So, now that we were talking a little bit about the false marketing aspect, again, it's very interesting to me how, like I said, ginseng has been spoken about as the, maca being the Peruvian ginseng, ashwagandha being the Indian ginseng, and, there are a lot of not so great ginseng products on the market, which are cheap and weak and cut products that are not in the best interest of the consumer to use, okay? And I think that these are all things that have given ginseng sort of that pinnacle reputation that it once had in America and brought it way down into the dumpster. Okay, we all know what I'm talking about. You go to a gas station, you have those little vials of ginseng with the honey. They taste real good, yummy, yummy, yummy. But if there is any ginseng in there, it is a very, very tiny amount. Because ginseng in and of itself can be a very, very expensive herb to purchase, okay? And there is good reason why it's expensive, okay? So, for one thing, here's a little fact. Okay, whether we're talking about American ginseng or Red Panax Korean ginseng, what you are always wanting to look for is a bare minimum of a 6-year-old root. That's the minimum you want to look for. And oftentimes, if you look on the website of the company that's selling it, or if you call the company, they will be more than glad to tell you how old the ginseng root product that you're buying is. And there is no reason why you should not be able to get that information. No reason. Okay, remember we've talked about this before. Transparency is always going to lead with what products you buy. The more transparent a company is, the better. And if they are transparent, you know you can trust them on those things. That's one way to know you can trust them. I'm not saying that's the only way, but that is one big thing for me, okay? So the reason why you want a minimum of 6 years is because a 6-year-old root, okay, will always produce, it takes about 6 years to produce what you call a full spectrum balanced root that gives you a full level and and the complete spectrum of all of what's known as ginsenosides, which are one of the active compound families found in ginseng, okay? And anything younger than that, you're not going to necessarily get what you would consider to be a real fully balanced herb and a optimized level of these active constituents, okay? Now, the truth is that 6 to 10 years is usually a really good range to look for. There's plenty of products out there that give you 10-year-old roots. It's more common to find 6-year-old root products, but 10-year-old roots, and there are products out there that are 50, 75, and even over 100-year-old roots, okay? And they are some of the most potent products you'll use. But when you get into those much older age roots, you're going to be paying a humongously premium price. You know, you could be paying for a 2-ounce extract bottle well over $200, okay? I have tried these products and they are tremendous, but it's not something you use in a real super liberal way. You use it in a sparing way, you experiment with it, you try it, you see how you like it, that sort of thing, okay? So that's first thing we want to look at when we talk about ginseng, okay? Now I'm going to break down the 3 different kinds of ginsengs that there are, okay? Let's start with American ginseng. American ginseng, what you also might know as white ginseng, is what's known as in Chinese medicine as a yin tonic, okay? And what it often focuses on, especially based off of Chinese medicine, is lung and heart health, and lung and heart, the meridian channels, okay? American ginseng is a cooling herb, and American ginseng is also a moistening herb. Usually, now this is not always the case, of course, but usually when you hear that something is a cooling herb, it's also going to bring more moisture and dispense moisture throughout the body, okay? So, for example, a lot of people will use American ginseng over the summertime because you're so warm during the summer and you sweat a lot more that you need to help to bring moisture back into the body to keep you hydrated and as well to keep you cool. So a lot of people will often use American ginseng during the summertime. The other thing to understand is that American ginseng is not a stimulating herb, okay? As a matter of fact, because it is cooling and it replenishes fluids for people who tend to run warmer and on the drier side, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought there for a second. It is non-stimulating, and because it's non-stimulating, this is good for people who, like I said, who run on the warmer side, on the overstimulated side, people who maybe, let's say, have anxiety issues or have very bombastic personalities, okay? This would be a great form of ginseng for them to use, okay? Because it's actually very tonifying and calming, but yet it also helps helps to, how should I say, support and build constitution, okay? And that's one of the biggest reasons why people really use ginseng, is because it helps to support a foundation of good health. It helps to support one's constitution, as I like to call it, okay? It's also good for people who have super duper, and again, this is goes back to the category when we talk about people who are hot and tend to be on the drier side, maybe have skin issues from being too dry and so on and so forth. This goes to people also, because of that, they sometimes will have very fast metabolisms. Maybe this is someone who has trouble gaining weight, okay? And this will help by helping to cool the body down, slow that over-aggressiveness down, and so on and so forth, okay? Next is Panax ginseng, or otherwise known as red ginseng. Now this happens to be, stop, put a pin in that. Let me back up a little bit. I forgot to mention something, okay? So with white ginseng or American ginseng, you always want to make sure that you're getting Wisconsin white ginseng or Wisconsin American ginseng. They are the pinnacle of white ginsengs or American ginseng. So when you're purchasing your American ginseng, always make sure that you're getting it from someone who sourced their raw materials from a Wisconsin ginseng farm. Simple. Done. Pop the pin out. Now, let's talk red Panax ginseng or Korean ginseng, because red Panax Korean ginseng is the ginseng that most people know, okay? And it's the herb that has been talked about the most, and it's the herb that also has been talked about in a way that is both positive and negative, okay? So ginseng is what's known as a qi tonic in Chinese medicine, and that's basically an energy tonic, okay? But it is not to be misinterpreted as a stimulant like coffee, okay? Ginseng is, red Panax ginseng helps with tonifying respiration and digestion, which is why in Chinese medicine it works very well as a lung and a spleen tonic, okay? And it is definitely a warming herb, and it is slightly drying when you compare it to American ginseng, okay? Because remember, American ginseng is more moistening and cooling, okay? And red Panax ginseng, because of its mechanisms of action, what it does is it supports healthy blood flow. It really works by warming the body and increasing blood flow throughout the body, okay? So because of that, red Panax ginseng is for people who are maybe running on the colder side, or maybe like, for example, with American ginseng, for people who run on the dry side and the hot side, it helps to reestablish moisture in the body. Well, with red ginseng, this is for people who maybe are retaining too much water, or people who are running almost at a low body temperature, or are on, you might say, too cool of the side, okay? Who maybe need to reestablish that vim and vigor, to reestablish that level of high energy, okay? Now, I want to be clear when I say this. A lot of people seem to think that red Panax Korean ginseng, for those who suffer or deal with anxiety or panic, is not in their best interest. And this is where I tend to think that that's a very reductionist point of view. So, I myself, someone who has anxiety issues, okay, I will use red panax ginseng, but what I often do is I will use it in either A, smaller amounts, or B, I will combine it with other herbs that I think work well with it. For example, I will often, when I use red panax ginseng, because it can be very stimulating for me, I will also always take my dose of the panax ginseng with holy basil, which is a wonderful anxiolytic herb, okay? So that will help to balance out that stimulatory effect. Now I do, during the summertime, I will switch over to American ginseng because I like it because it helps to cool me down. And for me, American ginseng tends to be my first go-to version of ginseng over the red panax, but I do use red panax when I feel like I need to, especially during the winter time when things are much colder and things feel more restricted and I need a little bit more warmth brought to my body. Okay, so as I was talking about when I first started talking about ginseng in this video, it's important to understand that not all ginsengs are created equal, and it's also really important to understand that ginseng, if used correctly, can be a wonderful tool to help to establish and reestablish a level of strong constitutions in the body and vim and vigor, as I like to call it. Now, here's another example of how we can use red ginseng, okay? I wrote an article and I also did a video. One of the first few videos I did on my channel was talking about sleep issues and sleep health, okay? And I had actually talked a little bit about how some people, they're so depleted that their body doesn't have enough energy in it to be able to produce a level of healthy sleep. Okay, they're just sort of sleeping, but they're not up to that optimal level of sleep. And this is where I talk about people like that who have such a low level of energy using red panax ginseng during the day to help to reestablish that. And what you'll find is those people, again, you don't want to use it at night. You want to maybe take like your last dose of it around 12, 1 o'clock. But by the time it's time to go to sleep at night, what I found those people have found for their results is that by taking red panax ginseng during the day, they actually sleep better at night because their body had the energy and the reserves and the storage to be able to get them to have a good quality night's sleep. Sometimes when your body is so depleted, you're just sort of lying there like a lump on a log and you can't sleep because your body doesn't have the reserves to be able to bring you that level of sleep. Because remember, when you fall asleep, your body is working hard to help you recover. If you don't have the energy reserves to help your body in that recovery process, then you're always going to wake up feeling tired and crappy. And that is, again, why understanding and using ginseng appropriately can make it a wonderful herb for everyone. Okay? Now, the third and final version is known as Eleuthero, or AKA Siberian Ginseng. Now, this is an interesting one, Siberian Ginseng, because a lot of herbalists will say that it's not even a real ginseng. But the truth is that it is a relative of true ginseng. It's not ginseng itself, but it is a relative of true ginseng, and it's how do I explain this? So it is a true adaptogen, and as a matter of fact, when you look back in the days of the USSR and the Soviet Union, it was very interesting because Siberian ginseng was one of the major adaptogens that was being studied during those times and was proven to be an extremely effective herb as working as an adaptogenic plant, okay? Now, with Siberian ginseng, it is slightly warming. It is slightly stimulating, but if I were to put in order, I would probably say it is probably the weakest of all the ginsengs, okay? But one thing I can tell you is this: it absolutely does help to build vitality over an extended period of use. It's not like using American ginseng and Red Panic's Korean ginseng, where it doesn't take long for you to be able to see a viable result. This is something that it slowly builds reserves over time. Although I do have to mention this, I have found that for people in their 40s, 50s, and above, American and Red Panics tend to be my go-to for those age groups. People in their 20s and maybe early 30s who don't need something as strong because they haven't gotten to those advanced years where your energy depletion will go down, seem to, in my opinion at least, seem to do a lot better with using Siberian ginseng, aka Eleuthero. Okay? Siberian ginseng is also what's known as a chi tonifier or an energy tonifier, where it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't produce these massive amounts of energy, but what it does do is it slowly brings vitality back, and then it will keep you at a very balanced level. And it also is known to what's called calm the Shen, or help you calm the center down, your heart, your mind. It keeps you very calm and focused. Okay? So now you have 3 different forms of ginseng, all of which, when used appropriately, can be very effective plant medicines. And this is why I did this video, and this is why I think that this is such an important video to do, because I think this is, yet again, very much like when we talked about echinacea a few videos ago. I think that too is a misunderstood herb because most people don't know how to use it correctly, okay? And they don't know which form to use. And that's why I really enjoy doing these videos, is to sort of debunk these bird's eye view ways of thinking. So now we're going to go to my top picks, okay? I would probably say there are 3 companies that I like, that I know are 100% real, reliable, and great products when it comes to sourcing the highest quality, okay? My first pick, and this is in no particular order, but I do have a favorite, I do have to admit. My first pick is a company called Jing Herbs. Now, Jing Herbs is a Chinese medicine company, okay? And they're wonderful. Their stuff is wonderful. If you remember in my last video, well, not my last video, the video before that, I talked about that I use their astragalus extract, and it's a wonderful product. I've always found them to be very transparent about their products. There's tons of great information on their website, and when you call them, they are very open and honest about having these types of discussions with their customers, okay? So I think that they make I think that they source out a wonderful American ginseng, and I also think that they source out great products where they use Korean Red Panic's ginseng in some of their other items. Okay. Next is Herbalist and Alchemist. Herbalist and Alchemist, they source a wonderful American ginseng, and they also have a wonderful Red Panic's ginseng as well. Both in tincture form as extracts, and they really do a great job when it comes to sourcing. But here is my number 1 pick. My number 1 pick comes from the company Dragon Herbs. Now, Dragon Herbs is owned by the Master Herbalist and Chinese tonic herbalist Ron Teagarden. And these guys, to me, are the epicenter when it comes to sourcing the highest quality ginsengs on the market, bar none, okay? Now, when I speak of this, I should be very clear when I say there are a lot of wonderful American ginseng products on the market, but the ones that tend to be a little harder to source, super high quality stuff, is the red ginseng or the Korean Panax ginsengs. And this is where I think Dragon Herbs really does a great job. Dragon Herbs also, in my opinion, gives a wonderful variety of red Panax ginseng products, because they have what's called their reserve ginsengs, which are the much older versions of the root, the 100-year-old root, the 50-year-old root, so on and so forth. And these products are very expensive, but they are absolutely spectacular. So I'm going to grab my bottle of the red Panax ginseng that I use from them. I'll be right back. So this is the tincture that I use from them. It is their red ginseng extracts, and it is it's a wonderful product. And like I said before, this is a wonderful company that does a great job in sourcing their products. Finally, my last suggestion is, if you live in an area that has a school of Chinese medicine, I found, for me, when I'm trying to source something really quickly and I can't get it right away when I need it, I found that Chinese medicine schools that have a big Chinese medicine apothecary within the school, they really often do a wonderful job. That noise is coming from the wind outside. It sounds like I'm farting, but I'm really not. It's the wind outside. Chinese medicine schools do a really, really wonderful job in sourcing Chinese herbs that are clean, that are really of high quality. So again, that is a sort of a situation where you could say to yourself, all right, if I'm in a pinch and I need something and I can't get it right away when I need it, that's another way of looking at it. So, with all that said, I hope that today's video was helpful. I hope that everyone can see and understand from this video what a wonderful herb ginseng can be, and the different forms of ginseng that are out there, and most importantly, what ginseng might be right for you to use, and the best times to use it. Okay? So, with all that said, Mike Stuchiner, Master Herbalist. B-O-N-E Bones and Bernie on a bench. We'll see you next time.